Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to another Short War video, and today we're receiving very big news coming out of Ukraine, that for the first time ever throughout this entire war, Ukraine has attacked one of Russia's early warning radar systems on the ground in mainland Russia, and that is a big escalation because that is part of Russia's nuclear infrastructure, and I'm sure that Russia is going to take that quite badly, but it's a big win for Ukraine of course, and we are getting more news here that China is ramping up their threats toward Taiwan and starting to get closer to potentially moving on the island, and right now everyone's waiting to see exactly what's going to happen with that. But with that, let's go ahead and jump right into our first post of the day, which goes to Status 6 Military and Conflict News. And this is certainly one of our biggest stories coming out today from Ukraine. It says here that Ukrainian drones apparently attacked a Russian Voronezh DM early radar system located near Armavir in southern Russia, and the site is known as the 818th Separate Radio Technical Unit and is a part of the 820th Missile Attack Warning Main Center, which is an early warning attack network against the ICBM attacks. And as you can see in the photos right here, the damage looks to be pretty extensive. There appears to be some damage right on the side face of the building right here, and this is right on the site of this radio technical unit, which is in charge, like I said, of tracking incoming ICBMs and also tracking the launch of munitions inside of Ukraine. This is what this facility does, and it's been targeted by Ukrainian drones for the first time ever in the war. So that's a pretty big escalation right there. There's some mixed feelings about this on both sides. I'm seeing some Ukrainian supporters say that Ukraine should not have gone this far by attacking this facility, but I'm also seeing people say that it's crucial to take these things out because it helps launch attacks on Ukraine. So let me know what you think down in the comments below, but this is certainly a pretty big escalation by Ukraine indeed. But with that, we're jumping into our next post here, and this one goes to Trent Telenko, and it says this radar system, referring to the one we just saw, can attempt to backtrack on ATACMS at the peak of its ballistic trajectory to the launch site itself, and Ukraine destroying this radar with a propeller cruise missile / OWA drone removes the possibility of this radar being used in the Russian ATACMS counter battery kill chain. So like I said, not only is the site used for tracking incoming ICBM and giving early warning to Russia, it's also used, like Trent said right here, to backtrack ATACMS flight paths to the actual launch site, which puts Ukrainian forces at risk. So that is probably the main reason which Ukraine took the system out, but we'll have to wait and see if Russia tries to spin this as an attack on their nuclear infrastructure, which they could try to attempt to make that argument, but in reality it's more like protecting Ukraine's mainland by destroying the system. But with that, we're jumping into our next post here, and this one goes to Nexta, and we're learning that Ukrainian drones damaged Russian fighter jets in the attack that happened on May 19th. And we can see here that Russian Su-type jets were at the Kushchevskaya airfield in Russia's Krasnodar region on the night of May 19th when Ukraine struck them with drones, and today is the first day that we've gotten actual satellite proof of the recorded damage to at least two of the fighters, Su-27 and Su-34, according to aviation experts who analyzed these satellite images, and they have proven that these aircraft are indeed damaged, and most of the fighters were removed from the airfield after the strikes. So once again, a major victory for Ukraine in striking these airfields in Russia, and like many speculate, this could be preparation for the F-16's arrival inside of Ukraine, which is expected in June or so. But we see Ukraine ramping up their attacks on airfields, and they are getting a lot of confirmed kills on Russian aircraft. So very good to see indeed. But with that, we're moving into our next article here, and this one also goes to Nexta. And in this post, we can see that the losses in Kharkiv must be getting to Putin's head quite a bit, because now Putin wants to quote-unquote freeze the war in Ukraine on the current front line. And it says here, the Kremlin is ready for quote-unquote peace talks if Russia retains the borders along the current front line, reports Reuters, citing 4 Russian sources. And they said, quote-unquote, Putin can fight as long as it takes, but Putin is also ready for a ceasefire to freeze the war, said one of the 4 senior officials. So as we know, the Russian losses are mounting quite heavily in Kharkiv and across the entire front line, and it seems like with Putin speaking this peace talk all of a sudden, if you can call this even peace, the Kremlin is requiring that Russia retain the current borders along the front line. Ukraine will never agree to that, and they should not agree to it, because all a ceasefire would do is allow Russia to rebuild their forces, get more equipment, and then relaunch their attack at a later date, because of course we cannot trust Russia, and you can pretty much guarantee that whatever the underhanded option is that they could take, they are going to almost certainly take it. So Ukraine is not going to agree to this, and once again, it's another half-hearted attempt by Russia to portray themselves as peacemakers while they're out here killing the Ukrainian civilians and also in an unwarranted invasion. But with that, we're jumping into our next post here, and this one goes to Samuel Romani. And this post right here is actually a few days old, but I had to go back and grab it to make something make more sense and give some context to one of Putin's propaganda statements. Right here it says that today, meaning May the 20th, a few days ago, was the official expiration of Zelensky's presidential term, and wartime legislation justifies delayed elections, but now Russia is starting its push to frame Zelensky as an illegitimate leader. So technically, the May 20th was the expiration of Zelensky's presidential term. However, martial law is in effect in Ukraine, and that allows Zelensky to extend his presidential term without an election due to the situation of the wartime scenario here. He's not illegitimate, and the Ukrainian constitution even allows him to take these actions he's taking. So once again, it's a simple Russian propaganda line to discredit Zelensky's presidency. So that is going to move us into our next post here, and this one goes to War Intel on Twitter, and it says, Putin says that we must deal with the legitimate leadership of Ukraine and not with Zelensky, whose presidential term has ended in accordance with the law and the Constitution. And like I said, completely false statement right here. The law and constitution in Ukraine allows Zelensky to extend his term legally, and he is doing that as we speak. So whoever Putin is saying that is the legitimate leadership of Ukraine, I have no idea. I assume he'd love to appoint himself as a leader of Ukraine. That's why he's invading the whole country. But I just want to show you how desperate Putin is getting, trying to discredit Ukraine and trying to rip it down with propaganda. But with that, we're moving into our next post here, and this one is going to go to War Intel on Twitter, and we're going to switch gears just a little bit to switch from Ukraine news back to our China-Taiwan news, because things are really heating up right now in that region. And in this post, we see that China warns that Taiwan's president is pushing for war, and also China threatens to expand their countermeasures against Taiwan if Beijing is provoked, according to the current report. So I guess these days, all it takes for someone to push for war is to simply want to be a sovereign country, and apparently according to Xi Jinping and also Vladimir Putin, that is enough to cause your country to get invaded. So China is really ramping up these threats right here, and China has Taiwan encircled at the moment, which is a very intimidating position for Taiwan to be in, and Taiwan is taking this very seriously because, like I said last night on stream, even though this is technically a quote-unquote training exercise by the Chinese, that's exactly how the Ukraine war started, by a quote-unquote training exercise, and then all of a sudden Russia started invading their territory. So it's not too far-fetched to say this could turn into an actual war here, and that's why everyone's watching it so closely to see if that's actually going to happen. But with that, let's go ahead and jump right into our next post, and this one is going to go to Ian Ellis on Twitter. And this operation, by the way, by China around Taiwan is called Operation Joint Sword, and we have a day one recap right here, and we can see that China launched a simulated blockade around Taiwan, and also 49 PLA aircraft were detected, and 35 entered the ADIZ, which is the largest violation of 2024. And not only that, but they were also encircled by 19 planned warships and 16 Coast Guard vessels, and also Taiwan ended up deploying their HF-3 missiles. And also there were a lot of other events that happened as well. It's pretty much going down pretty big league right now around Taiwan. And there's simply so much to cover on it. It's really not enough to be able to get into in the video right now. So all we need to know is it's really ramping up around Taiwan, and it's getting very serious. And China still has their equipment all around the island, and they have no signs of retreating as of yet. But with that, we're jumping into our next article here, and this one is going to go to Samuel Romani on Twitter. And it says here that the Chinese state TV is now priming the public for war with Taiwan by airing these very cringy propaganda videos on Chinese state television, also known as CCTV, sort of ironically because they love surveillance in China. But let's go ahead and take a look at the video here and see what we have. So right here we can see the Chinese propaganda video, and it looks like they're launching a ton of missiles from their aircraft, and it's just a montage of armaments being fired. And we can see here that there's a fellow oddly smiling in the corner of the screen right here as well. I'm not sure what that's about. And here's even a very cheesy animation of China wiping out a sovereign country with missiles falling on their territory. And apparently this is supposed to get the Chinese people all hyped up for World War III. So I'm not sure how the Chinese people are actually taking this, but anybody with any rationale would probably think this is not a good idea because once they attack Taiwan, Japan could get involved and all other countries could step in, which could start a nuclear exchange even, or something even worse than that. So I'm not exactly sure why they were airing this on TV thinking this is going to make people feel good, because it really shouldn't, and it's just cringy all the way around. But with that, let's go ahead and jump into our last post for the day, and this one is going to go to Global Press on Twitter, and we have a video here that appears to show the Taiwanese Air Force scrambling their jets above the city of Taipei, and it looks like I said before, Taiwan is taking this very seriously, and a lot of Taiwan's military is indeed active, and they're also even doing these military drills in the air, which we can see in the video. So as we can see right here, there goes these jets in formation over the city of Taipei, and that is Taiwan's version of saying China needs to back off. So I'm not sure if this is going to intimidate China, because it seems like China's on the warpath right now, but certainly a good move Taiwan to do those. And with that, that is actually our last piece of news for the day. So I hope you found today's video informative, and if you have, please press the like button and also give the channel a subscribe as well, because that greatly helps us get the news out there. And also, be sure to check out our Patreon page. The link is in the description below for that, where you can sign up and help support the channel financially, which also helps in a very big way indeed, and helps us keep the whole operation running, and we greatly appreciate it. So with that, we'll see you all at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight on our nightly war news stream for the more war coverage of the day. And with that, we'll see you tonight, and bye-bye for now.